Hello craft enthusiasts and printer pals. Welcome to DIY Machines, the channel where I get to share with you step by step how to recreate your very own awesome projects. In this episode, digital design meets traditional charm. I'm Lewis and we're going to be diving into the world of 3D printed stained glass effect windows filled with some gorgeously colourful resins. Whether you're a 3D printing newbie or a crafting guru, in absolutely no time you'll be turning out some very unique and personalisable, giftable creations, filling any room that they're in with colour. So, if you're ready to add a splash of colour to your crafting game, then smash that subscribe button, ring the bell, let's get to it. This video has been sponsored by PCBWay, and I'll tell you some more about them later on. Now, you're going to need just a few parts to build some of your own art pieces. You're going to have to get yourself some 2-part resin, some mica powder or pigments to colour the resin, as well as some small mixing pots, stirring sticks and gloves. A worktop protector is also a good idea. For the templates, you're also going to need some 3D printing filament. I've printed mine in 2 colours, a clear filament for the base and an optional second colour for the came lines that will make up the detail of your stained glass windows. And yes, you'll need a 3D printer to print out the templates. If you don't have access to one, you can find all of the designs you see in this video pre-printed on my international Etsy shop. Don't worry, you still get to enjoy the resin fun. For those of you who do have their own 3D printer, you'll find loads of designs available to freely download from my website at diymachines.co.uk. And stick around because later on in this video, I'll show you how to create your own designs using ChatGPT and Fusion 360. In this video with you, I'm going to print out and make the 4 mini surfboards, a giant butterfly, and the small tropical plant stake. It's a lot more efficient if you make several of these at the same time. I printed mine with a 0.32mm layer height using a 0.6 nozzle. After the first 2 layers have been completed in translucent filament, I then switched over to a different colour for the remainder of the print. Black for some and a metal effect for the others. I've used 3D Jake's filament and recommend using PETG if you'll be placing your projects into direct sunlight. You don't need a multicolour printer to achieve this. You can just switch the filament at a specific layer height. In Prusa Slicer, you can do this by slicing your artwork and then moving this slider down to where you'd like to trigger the manual filament change. Hit the plus mark and then your printer will prompt you to change the filament at this point. Other slicers do have similar features. With these templates complete, we can now start working with our resin. Please read and observe all of the safety notices on the resin that you're using. Once it's cured, it's perfectly safe, but it can be less than pleasant before this. Now I'm using this 2-part epoxy from J Diction, which I've chosen because it has twice the average resistance to UV light, which means it's not going to yellow very quickly, as well as having some self-leveling and degassing characteristics. The instructions say that we need to mix the 2 parts equally by volume, not weight. I've also invested in this set of silicone cups, as once used, you can just leave the resin inside to harden and then remove them and reuse again, which is that bit better for the environment. I won't be working quick enough to warrant pre-mixing enough resin for the entire project, so I'm going to mix some now, and then once we've used that up, I'll prepare a second batch. I mixed 100ml of part A with 100ml of part B by stirring slowly until no swirls are seen, making sure to scrape down the sides and bottom of the mixing pot thoroughly. Once the resin has been well mixed, we can decanter a small amount and add some of our colours. We can use mica powders for a more metallic and varied colour, or the pigments provide a better block colour. Start by incorporating just a small amount, as we want the light to be able to pass through the finished project to get us that convincing stained glass effect. Pour this into the sections of your prints, being careful not to drop it where you don't want it. Keeping some paper towel to hand is a good idea, and keep repeating this to fill up the various sections. You can also add additional shades or colours directly into your print after pouring the resin. Leave your project in an area at room temperature and protect its top surface from any settling dust. Now, the resin is going to take 16 to 24 hours to fully cure, depending on the humidity and temperature of where you leave your project. Though you'll probably find that after just 8 hours, you can add additional layers on top of your work to adjust the opacity or colours if you want to refine it further. So in a moment, I'm going to show you, as promised, how to create your own designs using either a hand-drawn illustration of your own or ChatGPT to generate one. Before we do that, I want to say a thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring this video, as well as JDiction for supplying the resin that I've used. These videos also would not be possible without the support of my patrons, which is this lovely list of people that you can see scrolling by now. Thanks to their support each month, I'm able to design, research, prototype and then film these videos to share freely with you. If you would like to support the channel, please consider taking a look at my Patreon page or YouTube members page. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. So you can draw any design that you want to, but just bear in mind that you'll want all of the outside edges to be enclosed, and if you make details too small, then you're going to struggle to get your resin into these without spilling into the neighbouring compartments. Once you've finished setting out your drawing, you need to take a picture of it from almost directly above, and then send this across to your computer. Or alternatively, you can ask an AI such as ChatGPT to create an image for you. Here I'm asking ChatGPT to create an image for someone who is a fan of the Fallout game franchise. Well, this looks pretty good. I'll probably concentrate on this circle here in the middle and omit the rest. We can then add our reference image as a canvas inside Fusion 360. Find the image that you either created with AI or drew on your piece of paper. Click on the bottom face to apply your image to it. You can then use the manipulation handles to slightly increase the size of the image for now. We should insert a rectangle the same size as the print volume to ensure that we keep everything to an appropriate scale whilst drawing it. To do this, create a new sketch using the rectangle option, and we'll set it as a construction line so that it's more for a reference as opposed to creating physical geometry. You can then type in the dimensions for the print surface of your print bed. Let's go back and readjust our image now. In the tree on the left, open up the canvas folder and then right click on your image and choose Edit Canvas. You can now rescale and reposition your reference image to however you think you'd like to print it. Now that we have an appropriately sized image, we can use the various sketch tools in Fusion 360 to trace the lines of our image. I'm going to use a combination of both the line and spline sketch tools to trace my artwork. For tips on how to effectively use each tool, hover over them for a moment in Fusion and read the pop-up dialog box. After you have finished tracing, we can extrude the lines. To do this, open up the Solids menu and then under Create, choose Extrude. We then need to create a thin extrude by selecting the option here on the Extrude dialog box. Select all of the contours that you have drawn one by one. Then set the distance to 4 mm, a wall thickness of 1.6 mm, and the wall location to center. Now, if some of those lines won't extrude in this operation, don't worry. We can simply continue and then create a second extrude feature for those remaining pesky lines. So what we've drawn so far makes up the walls of our stained glass window, or those cane lines that I mentioned earlier. What we'll do now is extrude the bottom, which is the part we'll print in translucent filament, and this will contain all our resin inside of our 3D printed mold. Create a new sketch on the same bottom plane that we used earlier. This time we'll use the project tool to project the outer perimeter's outline onto our new sketch. We can then perform just a standard extrude on this sketch, extruding it minus 0.4 mm. This will send it in the other direction. Save your work and then we can export it for 3D printing by right clicking on the body in the file tree on the left and choosing Save as Mesh. This can then be sliced in your slicing program of choice. And there you have it, a big dash of colourful creativity with a little help from our 3D printer and some bright resin. I hope you enjoy your 3D printed beauties as much as I am here, and consider sharing any designs that you make on my printables page for others to have the chance to enjoy as well. Don't forget to share this video with anyone you think who may be interested in making a project like this, or perhaps making you one. Thank you so much for watching my project. Until the next one, do some good and ciao for now. So really quickly, before we finish off this video, I want to say thank you to PCBWay for their sponsorship in this video. I've used them to create the PCBs for many of my projects now for more than 2 years. They've consistently delivered in both quality and speed. If you've never made a PCB yourself, I highly recommend giving it a go via PCBWay. If you're a new customer of theirs, they have a special promotion where you can have your first 5 PCBs for $5, and they'll give you a $5 coupon, so effectively you'll just need to pay for some shipping. Give it a go, you won't regret it. Printer pals alike. No. Enthusiasts and printer pals. No, that's not how you do it.